Thanks for tuning in to this video about WGAW, the radio station which has served North Central Massachusetts and Southern New Hampshire for 80 years. We'll cover weekday, Saturday, and Sunday programming. Gordon Deal, Steve Wendell, Mike Gallagher, Grace Curley, Scott Jennings, Hugh Hewitt, Mark Levin, John Batchelor, Red Eye Radio. Weekdays are just the beginning. Now sit back and enjoy the tour of WGAW on the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Have you ever wondered what a full 24-hour news cycle sounds like? All from one radio station? Well, today we're going around the clock with the weekday voices. We're going to explore every single show, from the dead of night all the way to your evening commute. You know, from those quiet hours right before dawn to the drive home and deep into the evening, talk radio is this constant companion, isn't it? We're about to walk through the entire weekday broadcast schedule, meeting the hosts who guide you through your day and night. You'll really see how the programming is designed to match the rhythm of your life. So our journey begins where most people's day ends, right in the middle of the night. So who's on the air when the rest of the world is fast asleep? Kicking off our 24-hour cycle are Gary McNamara and Eric Harley of Red Eye Radio. And get this, for an incredible 50 years, this show has basically been a lifeline for long-haul truckers, third-shift workers, and all the other early risers. It's so much more than just a broadcast. It's a vital connection to the world for everyone working through the night. Okay, as the sun starts to rise, you can feel the energy on the airwaves totally shift. From 5 a.m., the focus turns to waking you up and, getting you ready for the day ahead. First up is Gordon Deal with America's First News, which is your very first look at the day's top stories. What makes this show so great is its blend of essential info. You get the politics, the business, world events, but it's served up with a dose of humor and some really sharp analysis that's designed to get your day started with some clarity. Then, at 6 a.m., the focus gets hyper-local with the morning news, and it's anchored by the station owner himself, Steve Wendell. That's Wendell. This is really where WGAW connects with the community, bringing you all the local news, weather, and sports that matter right where you live. So here's a quick roadmap of our 24-hour tour. We've already hit the overnight hours and the morning wake-up. Next up, we're going to move right through the midday, into the afternoon drive, and then into the evening, all before the whole cycle just starts right over again. Let's keep this going. All right, let's get to the heart of the workday. From 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., a whole new set of voices takes over to guide you through your lunch break and that early afternoon slump. From 9 till noon, the Mike Gallagher Show takes the helm, bringing a national perspective to the local airways. This is a really strategic shift in the day's programming. We move from that local focus in the morning to the biggest stories and debates happening all across the country, keeping you plugged into that larger conversation. Then from noon to 2, we get to hear from Grace Curley. She's a fantastic local talent from right here in Milton, Massachusetts. She's a contributing writer for the Boston Herald. She learned the radio biz from the legendary Howie Carr and even produced a top-charting podcast. So the point is, she brings a really sharp, local, and well-earned perspective to the midday. And this just brilliantly shows you the diverse backgrounds of these hosts. At 2 p.m., we have Scott Jennings. Now get this. He's a CNN commentator, he served as a special assistant to President George W. Bush, and he teaches at Harvard. Oh, and did I mention he's also a chicken farmer in Kentucky? I mean, come on. It's that unique blend of experience that makes for some seriously compelling radio. All right, it's 3 o'clock. For a lot of us, that means it's time to head home. The afternoon drive is a critical time in radio, and WGAW has an absolute heavyweight for this slot. And that host is Hugh Hewitt. What's so fascinating about him is this kind of dual identity he has. He's an East Coast DC insider who served in the Reagan administration, but he's also a West Coast man, broadcasting from Southern California, where he's a constitutional law professor. This unique perspective lets him analyze the news from both inside the political machine and from a more academic viewpoint. It's a pretty cool combo. So, as the afternoon drive winds down, the conversation just keeps on going. The evening lineup is really designed for listeners who are settling in at home, looking for some in-depth discussion and powerful commentary. From 6 to 9 p.m., the Mark Levin Show takes the mic. He's known for his fiery commentary, for sure. He's considered one of the most influential voices in conservative talk radio, and he carries the day's biggest debates forward with a whole lot of intensity. And to take us home, from 9 p.m. all the way to 1 a.m. is the John Batchelor Show. He guides listeners through those late-night hours with these intelligent, in-depth conversations on, well, everything, from politics to technology. He makes sure the dialogue never, ever stops. And just like that, we are right back where we started. At 1 a.m., Red Eye Radio comes on the air, and the entire 24-hour cycle of news, talk, and just plain old companionship begins all over again. So who keeps you company during your day? Whether you're in the car, at work, or at home, WGAW is on 24 hours a day, providing that constant stream of information and conversation. You can tune in on AM 1340, get a crystal clear signal on 98.1 FM, or listen from literally anywhere on the planet by streaming worldwide. We are tuning in to WGAW and spending a full Saturday with the voices that keep listeners company from the dead of night all the way through to the next morning. So, let's listen in. You know, it's not just some random collection of shows thrown together. Nope, it's really a carefully crafted story that unfolds, hour by hour, designed to match the whole rhythm of a listener's Saturday. So let's dive into the schedule and see how it's built, starting when most of us are still sound asleep. All right, so our journey starts in those super quiet early hours. And for the folks who are awake, whether by choice or because of their job, the radio is so much more than just background noise. It's a real, vital connection to the world outside.
Okay, picture this. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. The world is quiet, but the airwaves? Oh, they are anything but. This is actually prime time for a very specific kind of listener. And WGAW kicks things off with a true powerhouse program made for all the night owls and early risers.
And here's what makes this show so incredibly special. It's the audience. The hosts, Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, they aren't just talking to a microphone in an empty room. They're a lifeline for long-haul truckers and people working the third shift. I mean, for over 50 years, this show has been a trusted friend on lonely roads and late-night jobs. It really proves the unique power of radio to build a community, even when you're all by yourself. And just like that, as the sun starts to peek over the horizon, the whole tone of the station shifts right along with it. At 6 a.m., the day's news cycle officially kicks into high gear with a show designed to get you informed and ahead of the game before you've even finished that first cup of coffee. This show just perfectly captures that morning energy. Host Gordon Deal steps in to get you completely up to speed. And this guy knows his stuff. He honed his skills at legendary New York City news stations like WINS and WCBS. So yeah, he's an expert at delivering a fast-paced, smart look at the day's top stories. You can think of it as the first cup of coffee, but for your brain. Okay, now that we're into the heart of the morning, the programming block gets even busier. With most people officially up and at 'em, the station pivots to a mix of deep-dive national news and some really practical advice for the weekend. Then, at 8 a.m., the focus gets a lot broader. We move from just the headlines to a much deeper analysis of the week's biggest stories, bringing in a full team of reporters to unpack what is really going on. What really sets this show apart is the team approach. It's not just one host giving you one opinion. You get a whole crew of journalists, people like Mike Emanuel and Lisa Brady, and they're leveraging the massive reporting resources of Fox News. The whole point isn't just to tell you what happened, but to unpack why it matters by giving you perspectives you might not hear anywhere else. So after you get your dose of world events, the focus shifts, and I mean dramatically. From 9 a.m. to noon, it is all about the home front. This block is just perfectly timed to be the soundtrack for all those Saturday morning chores and weekend projects you've been putting off. And the host, Gary Sullivan, this guy is the real deal. He's not just some radio personality. He's an industry veteran. He actually rose to become the president of a 16-store hardware chain. So when he gives advice, you know it's coming from decades of actual hands-on experience. It's really no wonder this is the most listened to home improvement show in the whole country. And now we pivot again. We're going from the national stage all the way down to the hyperlocal. This midday block is where a station like WGIW really gets to shine, connecting directly with the people and the issues right there in its own backyard. From noon to 2, we arrive at what is basically the heart of WGAW's local identity. This is the station's flagship, in-house production, and it's designed to be a direct line right to the community. Honestly, the guest list for this show tells you everything you need to know. It's hosted by veteran broadcaster Steve Wendell, and this program is pretty much the town square of the airwaves. You'll hear from the mayor, town officials, politicians from both parties, local nonprofits. It truly is the pulse of the Gardner community, live on the radio. So as the afternoon starts to turn into evening, the programming gets a lot more specialized. This is the time of day for shows that cater to specific passions, those niche interests, and really dedicated communities. At 5 p.m., the station airs a program with a very specific and a very important mission: to serve and connect with the military veteran community. The host here is absolutely key. Phil Briggs is a Navy veteran himself, a former photojournalist on an aircraft carrier. Now, that lived experience gives him a unique credibility to tackle really tough subjects like PTSD, veterans legislation, and transitioning back to civilian life. You see, he's not just reporting on these issues, he's speaking from within the community. Following that, from 6 to 9 p.m., we shift gears again, moving from public service to personal tech, and tuning in to one of the most recognized names in digital advice. And this quote from America's digital goddess, Kim Komando, it just perfectly captures the show's appeal. Yeah, it's a mix of expert advice on gadgets and security, but what really makes it work is the interactivity. The entire show is built around listener calls, which makes all these complex tech topics feel accessible and personal for everybody. Now, as our day with WGAW comes to a close, the programming takes a turn for the strange, the mysterious, and the unexplained.
From 9 p.m. all the way until 1 in the morning, we enter the world of a true radio legend, a voice who pretty much pioneered an entire genre of broadcasting. That legend is, of course, Art Bell, the original host of the iconic paranormal show Coast to Coast AM. Now, though he passed away in 2018, his legacy is carefully preserved. The program WGAW airs, Somewhere in Time, is a curated collection of his classic broadcasts, which allows a whole new generation to experience the undisputed master of paranormal talk radio. So, there you have it. We've journeyed through an entire day of radio. We've gone from overnight companions and morning news to local politics, home improvement, and finally, late-night mysteries. Each show is a deliberate piece of a carefully constructed puzzle, and it makes you think, doesn't it? In an age of on-demand everything, what is the enduring power of a shared, scheduled listening experience guided by the trusted voices of a local station?
Have you ever really stopped to think about the soundtrack of your Sunday? Well, today we're going to do something a little different. We're tuning into one single local radio station to hear how its lineup of voices shapes an entire day for its community, from way before sunrise all the way to late at night.
I mean, for a lot of us, Sunday is just a jumble of sounds, right? The coffee pot gurgling, maybe the news on in the background. But what if your whole day was curated? Almost like a playlist designed to guide you through the last day of the weekend. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're zeroing in on WGAW in Massachusetts to listen to how this one local station creates a whole narrative experience for its listeners just by changing the voice behind the mic. Okay, so here's our game plan for the day. We're starting in the dead of night with news for the all-nighters. Then we'll ease into the morning with some advice. After that, we'll tackle some weekend projects with the afternoon experts, get into some deep thought with evening commentary, and we'll wrap it all up with a little late-night tech talk. Our journey starts before the sun is even a thought on the horizon. This is programming built for a very specific audience. The people on the road, the ones working the night shift, or, anyone who's just up super early. So, kicking things off from 4 to 6 a.m. is Red Eye Radio. Just imagine you're a trucker on a long, dark highway. These are the guys, Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, who are going to be your co-pilots, keeping you awake, informed, and entertained. It's an absolute lifeline for overnight workers all across the country. And check out this number, 50. That's not just a number, it tells a huge story. 50 years on the air. That means Red Eye Radio isn't just some show. It's practically a landmark. It's been a trusted friend for generations of people burning the midnight oil. But before we get to the hard news of Red Eye Radio, WGAW dials into something a little more mysterious. In the deepest, darkest part of the night, they play Art Bell Somewhere in Time. These are classic reruns from the absolute legend who basically made talking about the paranormal a late-night radio staple. Then, as the sun finally starts to crack the horizon, the vibe shifts. From 6 to 7 a.m., it's the Fox News Rundown. This is where they really dig into the big stories of the day, bringing in different perspectives to get you way beyond just the headlines. All right, let's move into the morning. You can almost feel the programming slow down a bit, right? It starts to match that rhythm of people just starting their Sunday, maybe grabbing a coffee and thinking about what to do with their day.
From 7 till 9, we get a real New England institution, the Paul Parent Garden Club. For decades, if you lived in the area and had a question about your garden, this was the show you called. It's the go-to source for turning your thumb green.
And this is where a local show becomes a real legacy. Paul Parent hosted this thing for 30 years. And now, his son, Patrick, has taken over the mic. He's literally continuing the family business, sharing that same gardening wisdom, but now with a whole new generation of listeners. It's pretty cool. Then at 9 a.m., we go from the backyard garden to the entire world by airing the audio from a TV classic. Listeners get CBS Sunday Morning with Jane Pauley. You know the one. It's famous for its calm, in-depth stories on art, culture, and science. It's just a perfect, gentle way to ease into the middle of the day.
Okay, now we're heading into the afternoon. And what's Sunday afternoon for? It's for getting stuff done, right? It's prime time for those weekend projects, and WGAW's lineup is right there with you. For a huge 3-hour block from noon to 3, you can get all the practical advice you need from Gary Sullivan. His show, At Home with Gary Sullivan, isn't just some random show. It's actually America's #1 most listened to home improvement program.
So you might be wondering, why him? What makes him the guy everyone trusts? Well, here's the thing. Gary Sullivan isn't just a guy talking about home improvement. He's an actual expert who used to be the president of a 16-store hardware chain. He brings decades of real, hands-on business experience to the mic every single week.
After you're done fixing up the house, the focus shifts to another really important member of the family, our pets. From 3 to 4 p.m., it's The Pet Show, hosted by the internationally known animal expert Warren Eckstein.
People have started calling Eckstein the Dr. Philip Pets, and honestly, it fits perfectly. He's basically a therapist for your animals. He takes calls and teaches people how to actually communicate better with their pets. It's all about his hugs and kisses approach to training.
All right, so as the afternoon starts to fade and the weekend begins to wind down, the programming makes another big pivot. Now the tone gets a little more serious. The focus shifts to news, sharp analysis, and some of the biggest names in journalism.
Kicking off the evening block from 4 all the way to 7 p.m. is Chris Plant. He gives listeners this razor-sharp insider's take on the day's big stories, and he does it with this really dry, cutting sense of humor.
Planta actually calls himself a recovering member of the Washington media. And that little phrase, it tells you everything you need to know. He spent 17 years covering the Pentagon. He knows how the system works from the inside out, and believe me, he is not afraid to talk about it.
Then, at 7 p.m., WGAW airs the audio of a true icon of television, 60 Minutes. I mean, come on, for more than 50 years, this show has been the absolute gold standard for tough, investigative journalism and incredible interviews.
And finally, let's see how the station wraps up the weekend. As Sunday night really settles in, the focus turns to something that affects all of us: technology. The stuff that shapes our world, makes things easier, and sometimes makes them way more complicated.
The guy helping listeners figure all that out is Rich DeMuro. From 8 to 10 p.m., the Emmy-winning TV host has his show Rich on Tech, where he just breaks down really complex topics to make technology easy to understand for everybody, whether you're a total expert or a complete beginner.
So, from the overnight truckers and the weekend gardeners to the home improvement DIYers and the tech novices, WGAW really does craft this incredible day-long audio journey for its community. It's just a powerful reminder of how a few curated voices can shape our entire day, which leaves you wondering, who are the voices that shape your life?
We're diving into something pretty special, a local radio station that's not just surviving in the digital age, but is actually thriving. How? By doubling down on what matters most, its community. This is the story of WGAW and how it really became a news and talk powerhouse. I mean, think about it. We are just bombarded with information 24/7. But how much of it actually impacts your day-to-day life? The real trick is finding that one place that can tell you about a local road closure and also give you a smart take on national policy. So how does a local station actually pull that off? Well, for the folks listening to WGAW, it all starts right here. A rock-solid commitment to local news, all anchored by a veteran broadcaster, Steve Wendell. But just because the focus is local doesn't mean they're in a bubble. Some seriously respected national voices, like constitutional law professor Hugh Hewitt, to connect what's happening locally to the bigger picture. And it's not just about the frantic daily news cycle either. They also make time for these incredible feature-driven programs that take a deeper look at arts, culture, and those fascinating human interest stories. And to wrap it all up, WGAW has a lineup of really compelling talk personalities, like Grace Curley, who brings sharp commentary and a unique insider's perspective on everything that's going on. Okay, so to really understand how WGAW got to where it is today, you have to go back, way back. This station's story is completely woven into the history of its hometown, Gardner, Massachusetts.
You know, this timeline really tells a story of resilience. It kicks off right after the war in 1946, then enters this incredible 40-year stretch of stable ownership that really cemented its place in town. Fast forward to 2012, when a huge new push for live-in local content begins. And then in 2020, a game changer, the first big tech upgrade in 60 years, adding an FM signal to make sure that voice is heard loud and clear for decades to come.
At the absolute core of that live-in local promise is one show in particular. You can think of it as the community's direct line, the town's public square, if you will. We're talking about Hotline Radio. And this quote right here, it just says it all. The keywords are popular and locally produced. This isn't some generic show beamed in from who knows where. It is made by and for the people of the community, and that is what makes it so incredibly important. So who are they talking to on this show? Well, just look at this guest list. It's a literal who's who of local leadership. You've got the mayor, state legislators, emergency managers, nonprofit leaders. This show gives you a direct line of sight and accountability to the people who are actually running things.
And they are not debating abstract ideas here. They're tackling the stuff that really truly affects your day. We're talking snow removal parking bans, updates on that paving project down the street, the city budget, public safety. This is news that genuinely hits home, answering the questions that people are actually asking every day.
But look, local news is only half the story. To be a real powerhouse, a station has to have that national reach. And this is where WGAW truly excels, connecting its community to the biggest stories and sharpest thinkers in the entire country. And they do it by giving you a really broad spectrum of information. On one hand, you have CBS News, famous for its deep investigative journalism and feature stories. And on the other, you've got Fox News, using its huge resources to give you the full picture and maybe a perspective you wouldn't hear otherwise. The key here is that the station gives you both, letting listeners form a much more complete view of what's happening nationally. Part of that national connection comes from an incredible lineup of hosts. You've got people like Hugh Hewitt, and he's not just some talking head. This guy is a professor of constitutional law, a writer for the Washington Post, and he even served in the Reagan administration. He brings a ton of experience to the table. Then there's Grace Curley. She brings this really strong regional perspective as a writer for the Boston Herald, and she learned the ropes from a New England radio legend, Howie Carr. She knows this business, and she knows this region, inside and out. And I absolutely love this description for Chris Plant, a recovering member of the Washington media. After spending 17 years covering the Pentagon, you better believe he has a true insider's view on how DC really works. And he is not shy about sharing it. Okay, so beyond the daily hot takes and the news updates, WGAW also carves out time for something that's getting harder and harder to find: quality, in-depth journalism that actually takes its time to tell a story the right way. You know, choosing to air the audio for legendary programs like 60 Minutes and CBS Sunday Morning, that's a deliberate choice. It's a statement. It signals a real commitment to quality over just clicks and ratings. It gives listeners a space for these thoughtful, beautifully crafted stories that you just can't get from the 24-hour news churn. So when you put all the pieces together, what do you really have? Well, you've got a station with a deep, unshakable local heart, an impressive national reach, and it's all available to you through modern, easy-to-use technology. This weekly schedule just lays it all out. You've got your essential morning news, a really strong talk lineup to get you through the day, and then that deep dive programming on the weekends. It's a smart mix designed to keep you informed and engaged no matter what day it is. You know, in an age where media feels so fractured and divided, it's that rare place where local worries and national conversations can meet, offering a single trusted source for the news that shapes our world. And they make it incredibly easy to listen. Whether you're old school and love AM, prefer the clarity of FM, or you want to stream from anywhere in the world, WGAW is right there. It's a station with a local heart, a national reach, and now a truly global audience.